Alright guys, so this video is going to concentrate primarily on setting up a key map. In a previous video we went over the grid setup, how to create this grid that you see here. This was not the grid we created in that video, but this is just another circuit. And you can see this one's fairly simple. It's a larger square made up of smaller squares. And again, it's important that these grids match up with Potomac Edison's bid map grids wherever possible. In some cases they're not possible, but in order to provide that continuity, in order to give the crews something that they're probably already used to looking at. Many of them have been looking at the bid maps in order to win the work early on in the process, and they are somewhat familiar with how those circuits are laid out on the page. So let's get right into it. We have our grid already set up. This is a different circuit than the grid map video, but that's okay. It's the same idea. We're going to go ahead and get right into the actual print composer element of creating these sheets. So let's go first. We're going to select project. We'll go to the project menu. We're going to select new print composer, and I'm going to call this one key map, and I'm going to say underscore Arden. This is the Tabler substation Arden circuit, and it's important that you actually give these proper names. In other words, have Arden on here so I can differentiate this particular key map from other key maps that will be in the drawing. Remember, these are my 2016, some of my 2016 circuits I have all in the same project, and if you have a key map for 5 or 6 different circuits throughout the year, you're going to need to tell which one it is. Is it for Arden? Is it for Grantsville? Is it for Corriganville? What's it for? So that's important. So we're going to hit OK. This is just going to name it, and it's going to set us up with a default page here. Just make sure everything's good with the video. Looks good. And this is going to be our default page size. First item of business here is clicking on your composition tab over here under items, and composition has to deal with the actual page layout itself, the page size specifically. And we're going to select from the pull down custom, and then from this units pull down we're going to select inches, and then because the PE maps are 11 by 17, we're going to match that up so that the scales work. So I'm just going to say 11, and then the height's going to be 11, or width is 17 rather, and the height is 11 inches. And we'll hit the enter key, and now we've got this landscape oriented sheet that we can now build with some items. So the most important item on this page is going to be your actual map, and we're going to draw a window that will then view into the map itself. But first, before we draw it, let me just say that we will need some space for a title, maybe some other important information, as well as a key, a legend here on the right side of the map, or left side if you wish to set it up that way, somewhere on the map. So I'm going to go ahead and set my actual map window with those items in mind. And the actual tool I'm going to use is this Add New Map tool. It's got the little plus sign in the bottom right of the icon. And I'm going to leave a space here for a nice bold title. So I'm going to click down and drag. I'm still clicking. And I'm going to leave a chunk of space there on the right side for my legend. I can always resize this later. And there's my map. It pops up here. Now, I would suggest to you that play with the scale a little bit in order to get this key map to show the information you want to show, but you don't need a lot of extra information. See, we're showing probably more information along the borders outside the circuit than we need to show. And the way you adjust that is just go over to your items property tab, and since this is an item, it's a map, we're going to change the scale, and we're just going to play with it. It's 60,000 right now, 467. If we make this a bigger number, the map gets smaller and more zoomed out. If we make it a smaller number, the map zooms in. We want to zoom in a little bit, so we're going to make it a smaller number. So let's try 40,000. It's about a third of the original size, and you can see I'm actually starting to chop off pieces in the map here. I could use the pan tool right here and pan the map a little bit, but I'm still not showing all of my grid. Showing all my circuit, but not all my grid, and I don't have a lot of context for surrounding roads. So I'm going to make this number, I'm going to compromise and split the difference. Started around 60,000, I'm at 40,000 now, so I want to zoom out a little bit, so I'm going to make it a bigger number. So 50,000. And that's just about right. I can see some surrounding roads that'll give me some context, and this represents about the size on 11 by 17 sheet that you want your grid. You know, some circuits have odd shapes. My South Berkeley circuit last year was oriented north-south. I actually had a 17 by 11 sheet that was imagine taking this sheet and rotate it 90 degrees, so it was oriented up and down rather than left to right. Typically left to right is going to make more sense because it'll match your other pages, but in some cases you need to make adjustments, and it's not all that hard to do. Okay, so we have our map. Let's go ahead and turn to making a title. And for the title, we're going to add a label here. It says the text tool. And we're going to add a text box for the text to go in. And we're going to do that in the same way we did the map. I'm going to click down and hold. And I'm going to make a nice big chunky box here because I want a nice bold title that I can see easily. You want to make sure that they know that this is the first page and that this is where some of that overall information can be found. So we'll go here. Now you can see here there's a little bit of text in this box. These are the actual grab boxes, so we can make adjustments to the box if we wanted to. But we actually make the change to this text not over here in the box, but over here under item properties. Remember, composition was the actual page. Now we're starting to deal with the items themselves on the page. So this is the text box, and this is what the text is reading right now. And what I'm going to type in for this particular title is just going to be the substation, and I use a slash for just to differentiate between the substation and the circuit. And I just typed in the circuit there. So I'd ask that everyone, when you're typing in the circuit, make sure you include the substation and the circuit. It's just gives folks on the back end all the information they need in order to know they're on the right map. So Tabler Arden, did I spell it right? Yep, looks like I did. And I want to make this quite a bit bigger because you can see I can hardly see that on the page even as it is here on my screen. So I'm going to go to font, still under item properties here. Got my text here. I'm going to go to font, and I'm going to select, I just happen to know that 36 represents a pretty good size, and I'm going to select I have my fonts over here. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top. I just use the bar here to scroll all the way to the top. And if you get lost in this process, you can always pause the video using the pause button, or a space bar usually works too on the video. And I want to select Arial Black because you can see how bold that is in the sample window here. And I'm going to select OK, and I'm going to see, is this big enough? Yep. Remember, this is an 11 by 17 sheet when I print it out, so this is going to be a pretty good sized chunk of text. I'm going to use my grab boxes here and resize it. Note that if you make the text box too small and you see that the text is chopped off, the text is still there, as you can see under the item properties, but you just didn't make the box big enough. So I'm gonna make the box plenty big, and then I'm gonna select these grab boxes, wait for my mouse to show that icon. Yeah, I'm just gonna resize a little bit, hit the enter key, or click off of it, and now I've got my title. Now the crosshairs, as you can see, this allows me to move it around. You can see the different options when I'm on a grab box. It allows me to make it taller, wider, diagonally extend it, but the crosshair actually allows me to move it. And these little red lines help you position things in relation to other elements on your sheet, so they're kind of as a guide. I don't want to make it too much close to the edge because of margins. I don't want the printer to chop off the title. So the other bit of information, I just zoomed in one time with my mouse wheel, is I want to put some contact information on here. So I'm going to use the text function again. I'm going to create myself another box, and I know ahead of time that I want 2 lines of text here. Excuse me. I'm going to say planner, Jeff Dunn, and I'm going to say contact info. Just put my phone number on here so that crews can call me if they need me to ask any questions. It's always helpful for somebody to be able to get a hold of you It can prevent a lot of headaches on the back end if they can ask a simple question and get good information. So I'm going to adjust the font on this. It's at 10 right now. I'm going to bump it up to 14. Gives a little bit more size. I'm going to resize this a little bit. And I want to line it up with my title, just make them look professional. And now I've got a good looking title there, Tabler Substation Arden Circuit, got the planner's information. And now I can do some other things. I can add a north arrow if I want to. I just select that tool and I might put it down here. Recognize you have to draw it from south to north. North is where the head of the arrow is, so I have to draw it from the bottom up. So I just clicked and dragged and then released, and then I'll click off of it. Now I've got a nice north arrow pointing up. You can also add a scale if you wish. I'll let you guys experiment with that. But every element, you'll notice, every element has its own item properties. So if I select, this is kind of your bread and butter tool here, is this select move item once you've drawn it. And you actually create the items with the necessary tool, but then to move it or to modify it, you click on this tool here, and you just click on the actual item and it selects it here. You can see the grab boxes. And under item properties, there's all these properties that pertain to that particular item, whether it's your north arrow, whether it's your map. You can see my map here with my scale, my title. Everything has its own set of properties specific to what that particular item is. Okay, and then the last and probably the trickiest item here is going to be my actual legend. So I'm just going to select Add New Legend, click there, and I'm just going to click one time, and you're going to see a really long legend here. You guys might have it's really long. You guys might have a shorter legend depending on how many projects you have in one drawing, because it's just basically pulling every single circuit that I have in this drawing, which is probably quite a bit more than you'll have even at the end of your year. But don't fear, it's easy to fix this. In fact, I can probably fix it here pretty quickly for you using a couple tricks. You notice I have a set of item properties here again. I can change the title. I can resize things, but you're going to want to click on this auto update to make sure that's not selected. The reason being is I want to make some customizations to this legend, and I don't want the computer auto updating the legend based on any changes I make in my actual map window. We're in Print Composer window right now. Alright, so I want to take that off. I don't want that to be selected, and now I have to think about which layers I want. And I'm going to actually try to find my Tabler Arden circuit. Here it is right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a trick to allow me to select multiple things at once to delete them. So I clicked at the bottom here because I want to keep this whole group. You can see this is all grouped in one circuit there. I want to keep that whole group. So I'm going to select right above it. I'm going to go up, and I know for a fact I don't need anything from that circuit I just clicked on all the way up to here. So I'm going to hold down my shift button before I click, and this will select a range at the very next point I click. So I'm going to actually select this range, and if you see I selected that range there, and I'm going to use this minus key to just get rid of those circuits. I don't need them in my legend. And I'm going to do the ones from before. So again, this is the one I want to keep. Here's the expanded version. I want to get rid of all this stuff here, and be careful because once you delete it, then it's a little bit tricky to get it back. It's not deleting it from your drawing, it's just deleting it from the legend itself, because remember we deselected auto update. So, and I'm going to use my shift key again, hold it down shift, and I'm going to click the end of my range, and I'm going to click the minus button. So you can see we're getting closer to where we want to be. And I'm going to use my control button. I'm going to hold that down, and I'm going to select some of the layers that I don't need. I'm going to select with the control button. I don't need the county boundaries. I don't need these waypoints. We want to get rid of as many of these items as possible because this just adds clutter. We want them to just see necessary information. So we're going to get rid of all these legend items. Again, I'm just holding my control button down every time I click. And I'm selecting quite a few lines here. We'll leave this one here, that's the roads. Those are Maryland roads there, and we're in West Virginia, so We want the West Virginia roads. And we're going to get, whoops, hold my control button down, deselect. You can go backwards with this too. My computer's not letting me, sorry guys. I'm going to have to catch up to you real quick here. So we'll just get rid of this. Let me get rid of all this stuff up here above Table Arden. I'm doing this real quick because I screwed it up there. And then get rid of that. And now I have under Table Arden, I have, somehow I created, sorry guys, I goofed a little bit here. I accidentally moved these items into my Table Arden folder, but you probably won't have done that. So I want to keep my map grid. I want to get rid of this one. I want to keep Arden line. That's going to be important. Poles are important. Map grid is pretty important, although not totally necessary. It's pretty self-explanatory with the map grid. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that one. I have a group within a group here, guys. It becomes important to there we go. Just got rid of that subgroup in there. Didn't need it. All right, so the most important elements that you're going to want to show are, you're going to want to show your actual parcel colors and the different statuses. In fact, well, before I get to that, let's say your parcels or your statuses, your actual power lines, your poles, those are the most important items. And then if you want to, show your roads as well, but they're pretty self-explanatory. They're labeled, and folks should know what the roads look like. They're gray if you use the proper style, and folks won't have any problem knowing what roads are. But I would like to say you can make adjustments to these titles, and I would encourage you to do so. A lot of times, like this particular title here won't mean much to the crews. You need to kind of change it to make more sense to the crews. So what I'll do is I'll use the this edit key right here, this little pencil and paper, and it pulls up the title, and I'm just going to say status, right? Because we're showing the status. Is it planned? Is it special condition? Is it refusal? What's the status? So I just changed that to status, no problem. I'm going to change this one too. I'm going to say zones, because it shows zone 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get rid of underground because it's not useful. We're not showing it on our maps. Actually, I'm showing it on my map, but I can click on the checkbox next to it in the actual map and make that disappear. In fact, I would encourage that. Instead of Arden pole, I'm just going to say pole. Let's keep it simple for them. And I'm going to say roads. Just some quick little changes there. You can use these. You can change order, the order of the way things show. If I wanted to show my poles down below the zones, I could just use these arrows. So there's a lot of opportunities to make customizations. Okay, so I got my legend here, which I can copy paste to other sheets, and I can show you, probably create another video on actually how to create remaining sheets. But it is easy once you create it to copy between sheets and not go through all that for each sheet. Sometimes it's even acceptable to put the legend just on your key map, provided you submit this key map with every single submittal, which I encourage you to do. And it's also important to actually show some specific information on this key map. You don't want to make it too busy. You don't want to show too much information. And the information I have shown here is actually the correct amount of information. And for instance, if you have your in your main map, I just toggled to my main map here. I'm going to go to Table Arden. If I'm showing my parcels and my poles, when I go back to my key map and I hit the refresh button up here, any changes I make to my actual GIS map actually will show up once I hit the refresh button. You can see how busy this is. I no longer can easily see the zones. I'm seeing a lot of poles that are really useless to me at this scale, and so this is a very muddy and improperly constructed key map. You can kind of see where my grid is, but I can't really see road names. A lot of stuff's covered up. So again, I want to go back to my map, and I want to turn off the items I don't need for this key map. We can always turn them back on later. So I'm going to keep the line. You want to show the lines because that shows the zones. It shows you where the zone 1, 2, and 3 are. Turn off poles for the key map. We don't need them. It's understood that the poles are along the circuit. And I'm gonna also expand this menu right here because I want to turn off my underground. I don't need to show that underground line. That's just going to confuse crews, perhaps. So I just turned it off, and I'm going to go back to my map down here in my taskbar, hit the refresh button again, and now I'm just showing roads. A lot cleaner map. You can see the city of Martinsburg is up here. You can see my legend is nice and clean. Might even take that table art and let's see if I can get away with that. Nope, sure can't. Just Control Z is undo, or you can go to edit undo right here. You can see Control Z. If that's if you screw something up and you need to undo it. Okay, so that pretty much is your key map. Again, you can throw a scale on here. This starts off in kilometers. Again, you have item properties. I can go to I can go to feet, show feet on there. Some of the foresters like to see an actual scale, just gives them a little extra reference. You can make all these adjustments to different things, move the scale around. Again, just make it look professional, guys. Don't be sloppy and have things overlapping, but just make sure you can read all the numbers on your grid, or at least most of them. This one has a missing number here, you can see, and it actually is missing because you have 2 road titles, which are set pretty aggressively in the layer styles to show up, and so it's covering up the 4, but there's just one number missing here, and you can kind of interpolate that since you have 1 2 3 blank 5, this is probably 4. So it's okay, but if you have a bunch of those numbers missing, then it just looks sloppy, and you can give me a call to figure out how to change that. It's not hard. It basically just means setting your priority slider under your layer styles, but I can certainly answer that question if you run into it. It's not real common. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video short. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. I don't believe there is. Again, you want to show this information: legend, title, contact information. Scale is not necessary all the time, but it's just a nice touch, and it's so easy to create. Just make sure it's not in kilometers, it's in feet. It'll pull down here under item properties. Again, I'm on this tool right here. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, guys. I'll see you in the next video here. Let's see, how do I get back to my video? There we go. I'll see you on my next video, which is going to be taking this sheet, basically duplicating it so that we save a lot of the settings, and then creating the actual zoomed in map sheets. So it's once you set up the key map's probably the hardest map to set up. The other ones are fairly easy once you get the concept. So anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.